You're listening to the All Systems Go podcast, the show that teaches you everything you need to know to put your business on autopilot. Learn how to deploy automated marketing and sales systems in your business the right way with your host, the professor of automation himself and founder of Automation Bridge, Chris Davis.
Welcome to the All Systems Go podcast. I'm your host, Chris L. Davis, founder of Automation Bridge, an online publication for small business automation. And in this episode, what I want to discuss is what happens when you need to call in an emergency for your marketing. What happens? What do you do when you have to call on what I've coined the term, the automation ambulance, to fix your situation as soon as possible? Well, what I want to do is cover this topic from the perspective of both the person calling the ambulance as well as the one driving the ambulance. And I want to give perspective to both so that you can get a holistic understanding of what to expect. And just a disclaimer, this may come off a bit harsh as I talk about what the caller should be focused on and the driver and just kind of telling the story from both perspectives. I'm not for or against either one. I just want to give you the understanding to eventually prevent you from calling the ambulance. I don't know about you, but I don't like the sound of the sirens from the ambulance, let alone riding in one. Thank God I've never had to be in an ambulance myself. I've experienced emergencies, but I've never had to be in an ambulance. But I cannot make that claim for marketing. And many of you can't either, which is okay. Like I said, I've ridden in it before and it's okay. So this is not a shame-filled podcast. Well, I'm not trying to shame you. What I want to do is give you the understanding to prevent it from happening in your marketing. So before we get started, if you're new to the podcast, make sure that you subscribe and share. I'm in all main outlets, wherever you can subscribe to podcasts, but primarily Apple Podcasts and Google Play. Please subscribe and leave a 5-star rating and review, because I cannot tell you how grateful I am for all of the reviews that have been pouring in since I launched this podcast. Every single one of them, I read them, and best believe it's like my hand is on my chest saying thank you, because they're not only honest words, but they're really heartfelt words. So from your head and heart to my ears, eyes and heart, thank you. And please keep it up. It helps me get the word out, because more people need to hear this, and especially this. Especially this one. So remember, 5-star rating and review, and share it. And while you're listening, please do me this favor. And as I'm talking, I want you to think beyond you. A lot of this stuff is going to apply directly to you, and it'll be good enough for you to be like, man, that was good for me. But I need you to think outside of yourself and think of that one person that could really benefit from what you're listening to and about to listen to for the next 30 minutes. All right, deal? All right. So with that being said, we've all, let me just take everybody off the hook. We have all been a caller of the automation ambulance, a driver, either a caller or a driver, or both. I was running my masterclass live, and Clive had typed in the comments. He said, I was talking about you've either been a driver or you've called on the ambulance. And he said, I've been both. It's like that's true. And especially if you're in marketing for any length of time, what you'll see is that you'll migrate. And I'll just speak for myself right now. I'll speak personally to my journey, is that I've migrated in my career from the caller. I was the caller, and I remember the specific consultant that I called on, to the driver. I spent most of my career driving the automation ambulance. I'm very familiar with that. To now, I simply oversee the hospital. I've paid my dues. Listen, everybody, I've seen my share of blood, marketing blood in arteries and in veins. And, I've seen my share of emergencies. To now say, you know what, my dues are paid. I've got the bloody shoes, the gown, and sorry if this is a bit grotesque, but you get the analogy here. I've seen the pain. I've been in pain and I've seen the pain. So I'm not out in the field driving anymore. But I want that to be true for those of you that implement marketing and those of you who call on marketing. That's the importance of this one. So let me get into it. And what I want to do, this is what I want to do. I want to give a few scenarios and you just tell me if any of these scenarios apply to you, your business partner, or in any capacity. Okay. The first is going to be from the perspective of the caller. Okay. This is the person calling on the automation ambulance. So as that caller, you may be experiencing these. So tell me if this is true. Virtual raise of hands. You've paid top dollar for implementation. And just before launching or going live, you realize nothing was delivered as promised. It was definitely taken out of your bank account, and sometimes maybe they even ask for 100% up front. And when it comes to being delivered, you log in, nothing is built out, right? Like nothing they said that they were going to do, they've done. What about this one? You've gone live. What if you've gone live and then you realize something was fundamentally broken that needed to be fixed? Something like payment processing. Hey, wait a minute. The button is not going to PayPal. When they click that button, it's not taking them to the right page. They're entering their information and getting access, but I'm not seeing the payments come through. I'm paying for traffic, being driven to a landing page, but I don't see any leads in my CRM. Where are they going? Right? Just a fundamental hole in your marketing after you've gone live. What about this one? You've experienced a life-changing event. It has taken place and you need to get your business off the ground yesterday. That opportunity, that employer, that partnership that you were banking on has now dissolved. And you're left with all that you have and you're looking at your business and you're like, I need you to pay me full time by the end of this month. Right? If you've experienced any of those, you've been in the caller position and you've called on the automation ambulance expecting an immediate fix, some resolve. When you pick up the phone and do, what it looks like online now is you're going to somebody's website, filling out a form, asking a friend for an introduction, posting in a Facebook group or some network. Hey, does anybody know someone who can? Right? That's what it looks like. And you're making that call. So let's shift. What about the driver? Let's talk about the emergency, that marketing emergency from the driver's perspective. So as a driver, maybe you get an email introduction. Just let me know. Virtual raise of hands if this fits you, if you've experienced this. You get an email introduction to an entrepreneur in need. And they fit, right? You look and say, okay, their business, this fits my client, right? You get on the phone and realize they've wasted all of their money on another consultant, can't pay you. Well, let me not say can't, are not willing to pay you what they paid the other consultant, although the implementation that they get from you is actually going to work. Has that happened to you? That I can't count how many times that has happened to me as a consultant. I can't count. What about when someone reaches out to you with what seemed to be a simple fix, only to find out there were more layers involved? Oh, that is the marketing sucker punch, right? Hey, can you just help me figure out how to send this email? Can you let me know if this email is set up right? And you log into the platform expecting just to go to one place and say, yeah, you're good. And before you know it, you realize, it's not live. Oh, wait a minute. It's not live because your form isn't set up. Let me look at your form. Wait a minute. What are you integrating this with? Oh, lead pages. Well, if you're integrating with lead pages, you have to do it a different way. Let me see. Oh, you don't even have your API credentials from Infusionsoft to put over or HubSpot or ConvertKit, whatever, right? It's not connected. And before you know it, what seemed to be a simple solution is now this big elaborate use case. And since you are the one that identified it, who are they looking at to fix it? And this is before you even came on and said, hey, I'll do the work for you. You thought you were doing one simple thing. Now you've inherited this entire mess. If you don't know how to say no, that is, right? What about this? You get connected with an entrepreneur that's going through a tough transition in life, and they're putting the same weight that they feel on you in order to get you to help them faster and often cheaper. This is, oh man, this is going to sound harsh, but listen, everybody, this is happening. This is the sob story, right? Oh, I just lost my job. Oh, I can't believe my business partner took all of my money. And just know that I would pay you if I could, but it's just like I am so strapped right now, and I know you're worth it. And I've been following you for years, and in fact, I had planned on signing up for your program last year. I remember that, and just could you help me get out of this, right? My kids just enrolled in private school, and I'm just so frustrated. I'm just so overwhelmed. They take all of these personal problems and put them right in your lap. And you have a choice right at that moment to say, I accept these. I have a family. I know how it is. Here, let me just strike off the full amount. I'll do it. I'm not laughing at the real life situation. I'm laughing at my response to it over time. When I was younger in marketing, those things just pulled on my heartstrings, man. I am not one of those person. I'm not the type of person that doesn't connect with people. So oftentimes as a connector, you have to be very careful with the level of depth of that connection and the emotion involved with that, especially in business, because somebody can start pulling on your heartstrings, especially if you resonate with their story. I just lost my job. I put my all into this company and they just threw me to the side. I can't believe it. That'll pull on your heartstring if you've ever been just totally dismissed from a company that you have put your all into. It'll pull at your heartstrings. And you're like, oh my gosh, I know that feeling. Let me help. Be careful is what I have to say in that respect. Be careful. You can be understanding, compassionate, sympathetic, empathetic, and still get paid. Okay? So right about now, I hope the callers have said, yep, that's been me. And I hope the drivers have been like, yep, all the time, Chris. And if that's the case, I need you to perhaps listen again to where the caller is coming from, and callers listen again at what the driver is experiencing. Right? I need both of those perspectives to really be taken into equal account, because the thing is that this is going to happen and will continue to happen. Okay, you're always going to have emergencies in business, especially in your marketing, because again, what did I mention in the previous podcast is that marketing is a living thing, because it encompasses people who are living. So people are going to experience life, and life is going to hit people at a different level at different times, and they're going to need help. However, you define what that help looks like, and hopefully I can help set the expectation on the caller of what you should be mindful of when that ambulance shows up. Okay? So in all of these cases, they all involve the calling of the ambulance to show up and fix things. Hey, can you help me out? You get that email, right? Somebody went through your scheduler, your online scheduler, showed up, and the first thing they say, hey, look, man, I probably won't be able to pay you what you need, but I just need this real quick. Or maybe it's a text message. Hey, this may be out of your league, but can you help me out with the da-da-da-da, right? Whatever the case may be, right? So let's talk about what to expect. And this is where, again, everybody, I really need you to just take a step back, because this may get emotional for some of you. I'm not the big bad wolf here. I just want to be very clear with what you should expect. So as a caller, you have an immediate need. You pick up the figurative phone and you dial the figurative 911. The ambulance shows up. What should you expect? Don't expect a quick fix. Listen, I understand that you're bleeding and you're looking down and you're like, I'm not going to make it. This is too much blood loss, right? Too many leads lost. Look at my revenue tanking. Where's my revenue coming from, right? But most of the time, what you're going through is going to require surgery. Don't expect a Band-Aid. Can you imagine? Again, marketing is invisible. So oftentimes the pain and the solutions that we experience are invisible. We just experience the result of it. I mentioned that in my previous podcast, episode number 6, the marketless, make mistake-less marketing. So if that's the case, can you imagine if you saw somebody that had cut an artery in their arm and it's just like spraying everywhere? Could you envision somebody coming with a Band-Aid and putting it over it? So you should be good. The minute they put the Band-Aid on it, it's all bloody. It falls right off and you're right back to it. But this is what happens in marketing. You're expecting the Band-Aid. The Band-Aid is not even going to work for 5 minutes. Right? So just expect it's not going to be a quick fix and it's going to require surgery. I think if you just have that understanding, it will help you lend a more accurate expectation on the time required. Okay. Next is it's going to cost you. And most of the times more, right? You can't expect to get better implementation than what you wasted your money on for a cheaper price. If anything, this really hits home for me because I can't tell you that uncomfortable position I've been placed in. It used to feel uncomfortable. Now I just don't no. Right? I'll just say no. But you cannot. I know what I'm doing. You didn't do your due diligence. You went out and hired some nobody. And a lot of times, here's what's crazy, everybody. A lot of times it's on the strength of a referral. A friend has said, hey, so-and-so can help you out. I cannot tell you how many people I've connected with on Facebook. And even done like trainings and everything, I've been convinced of their skills. But one thing that I do is I never recommend somebody I don't use myself. So what I'll do is I'll sign up for their service first. And the amount of people, and these are still good friends, I would never hire their business. It's one in particular. They did marketing and I was asking them to do a website for a client back in the day. And the process for them to get this website up was so terrible. But the Facebook group, the visible marketing that they were doing looked great. You would have just thought, oh my gosh, these guys are amazing. So I intended on sending them more business. And what I did was I sent them business before I experienced their business firsthand. And it didn't go well. And since I connected them, it was a reflection of me. And I said, nope, never again. I will always buy the service first before I recommend it. Just like tools. You'll never hear me recommend a tool that I'm not using myself. I've got some form of personal experience with. I may not be actively using it in my marketing, but I've used it, and perhaps I've used it on a different application for a client or, for someone else. And I know and I can vouch for it. But most of the time when you get these people who are calling on the ambulance, you show up as a driver and the caller is like, look, I wish I could pay you. Wish I could pay you what you're worth. But so-and-so, the other ambulance, just took all my money and just drove off. They didn't even put me on a gurney. They didn't even help me. They just left me here. So now I don't have any money, but I still need help. Right? Listen, that is not your problem. I know it sounds kind of cold, but I'm saying this from the caller perspective. You cannot expect that was your decision. And unfortunately, maybe it came as a referral, right? Maybe somebody in a group was like, hey, I can help. Those are the worst, by the way. When you post in a group, hey, is there anybody here that can help set up an autoresponder? And then you get 50, hey, DM me. And they tag other people. I never do it. I never hire somebody from that. Because in my experience, I've gotten mediocre to subpar implementation. People who really know what they're doing are not scouring Facebook groups, tagging themselves or saying, I can do your work. They're busy doing work for clients. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Are there exceptions to the rule? Absolutely. Somebody has posted in a group forum and actually got connected with somebody and it worked out. Don't bank on it. Don't bank on it. Okay? So just know it's going to cost you. I don't know about you, but my medical insurance always has a higher copay for the emergency room than it has for just a regular doctor's appointment. The copay is higher. So don't expect it to be cheaper when somebody who can really help you out shows up. Okay? Next thing to expect as the caller. You can be patched up on the spot, right? We get on the scene. It's like, okay, I can control this. However, you're going to need to be transported back to the facility to do the work, the surgery. What does that mean? I can fix, like I can stop the bleeding now, but I'm going to need you to come into my process in my framework. I can't adopt someone else's work, right? Like maybe that person shouldn't use stitches and they use staples. So now, okay, let me put this gauze on it and some whatever to get you back to the facility. My framework, I'm going to have to remove these staples and I actually use these invisible stitches. So you have to be prepared to follow another framework. That facility that they bring you to, they have to bring you inside of their framework and getting things done. So what can't you do? You can't tell them how to do it. Hey, look, the other person said I needed to do this, this, and that. I get it. Good. We're not in their facility. We're not using their framework. We're using mine. Thank you. Right? I'm just telling you what to expect. So again, you may be able to get a patch on the spot, but that you're going to have to come into their framework in order for you to get what you really need. And that brings me into the last one. They're kind of intertwined for the caller is they may have to totally undo what's been done. Again, this is code for it's going to take some time. Depending on how deep the work that they did or the non-work that they did is, it's going to take some time. What about the driver? We spent some time on the caller. What about the driver's perspective? Let me help you all, because many of you have driven the automation ambulance and didn't even realize it. So let me help you understand what you're going to see on the scene. Okay? The first is there's going to be blood. All right? This is not for the faint of heart. If you are you want to be in the field of consulting, marketing consultant, automation specialist. If that's the field, you're going to see blood, which means you're going to hear the sob stories. You're going to hear the screaming, the frustration. You can't let it get you out of your element. You show up, you follow your process. Do you understand me? You do not take shortcuts. Listen, I have a qualifying form that people have to fill out. And sometimes you can go around it, right? If you want to get on my calendar, there are ways around it. But for the most part, I force people through my process. Hey, yeah, I'm glad we did meet at this local event. Yeah, you want to schedule some time? Here, let me send you the link. Right? You put processes in place for a reason. So a lot of times when people see blood, they're just like, then they just do whatever. It makes them nervous. When you see a business owner in pain, a lot of times you're seeing the quick and easy dollars. Oh, I could do this. Don't you do it. Don't you let it get you out of your element. Here's what you need to do. Perspective of the driver. You need to diagnose quickly. You need to get on the scene because it shows your expertise. It shows you know what you're doing. And the only way to do that is to ask the right questions. I was consulting with a copywriter, and this was like 2 days, like a 2-day interview to like get the information out of me. And it got to the point where I felt like you're not asking the right questions. If you've been asking me questions for 2 days, to me, if you're not clear now, you're not an expert. You don't know what you're doing because you're not asking the right questions to get you to clarity quicker. So as a driver, you need to know those questions to ask. You show up on the spot. Ask those questions to diagnose them quickly so that you can inform them of the process to the solution. Oh, hey, what happened? Oh, okay, you fell? Tell me this. Did you fall on your right leg or left leg? Okay, I see the left leg and I see it's bent like an L in the wrong way. It looks like it could either be you may have shattered your kneecap or just broken your leg in general. Here's what we need to do. First, we need to, put you on this. Then we need to, right? If you show up in marketing like, okay, what are you trying to do? Okay, you're trying to make $20,000 a month. Great. You're generating leads on Facebook. Okay. Tell me about how much money have you made? They're like, you idiot. I just said I'm not making any money. I need to make some money. Oh, yeah, that's right. What kind of Facebook groups are you part of? Are you serious? Are you really asking them what kind of Facebook groups they're part of? Key indicator here, go back, listen, everybody who is a driver of the automation ambulance, go back and listen to episode 5, the significant 6. That is going to give you at least a baseline framework of questions to ask because I outlined those 6 systems. Just ask questions about those 6 systems. And when you get better, you'll be able to quickly identify right on the spot which system they're lacking or what's the lack of which system caused the injury. But if you can diagnose it quickly, ask the right questions, listen intently, and inform them of the process to a solution, you can get buy-in faster. Lastly, their money problems are not your problems. Your price is your price. Okay? Don't you let them pull at those heartstrings. Don't you let them put that weight on you. That's not your weight. It's enough trying to figure out what needs to be done. The last thing you need to do is say I'll do it for a discount price. Stand your ground. Their money problems are not your problems. Stick to your process. You stick to your pricing. When you show up as a driver of the automation ambulance. So how do we stay out of it, everybody? Because best believe you do not want to be on either one of those sides continuously. Okay. How do we stay out of it? I coined a term. It's PMC, Preventative Marketing Care. And I was asked to speak to a room full of doctors by Dr. Dre in Atlanta. And it was a great, amazing event. We stayed in the room and I taught these doctors. So that's where that came from. I was like, how can I say it in a medical term? Preventative marketing care. And essentially that is taking the time to plan up front to prevent yourself from needing an emergency. Okay. It's much easier. I don't know about you, but again, it's much easier to schedule an appointment and say, hey, look, I'm experiencing some pain in my stomach. Go and pay that copay than to ignore that pain, have to call on the ambulance and pay the copay for the emergency room. Okay, so take the time to plan and purchase insurance, everybody. What is insurance in automation? What did I just say in the previous episode? Episode 6. What did I say? Documentation is your insurance for implementation. Purchase some insurance. Get you some documentation. Clearly mapped out processes that need to be implemented. I'm speaking from experience. If you map out, if you're working with somebody that knows how to map your marketing out right, you can practically hire any implementer. Now, it takes a little oversight, but you remove a level of expertise from the implementer so that you can get better quality implementation at a cheaper price and much faster. But it requires preventative. When you hear the word preventative, planning should come in. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it didn't hurt too bad. I know, listen, I know that some of these things that I mentioned, you may be experiencing right now. You may be, the ambulance may be at your door as you're listening to this. In fact, you may be in the ambulance while you're listening to this, or driving it while you're listening to this. I just want to help you understand what's going on and how to prevent it from happening in your business. You'll see a theme. I'm not letting off of this theme of doing automation the right way. And if you're not going to plan, if you're not going to take the time up front to ensure that what you do today won't break tomorrow, this is not the podcast for you. But if you've been listening to this and it's really been challenging how you operate, really challenging what you expect, keep listening, because it's going to just keep getting greater and greater later. All right. So my sympathies and empathies, sympathies because I don't do it anymore, but empathies because I have done it. To all of you callers and drivers out there, continue to drive with care, show up, be compassionate for that business owner. Don't be cold-hearted, everybody. Callers, just understand. Listen, what got you in this situation is probably moving too fast. Slow down. Slow down and vet out the consultant. If you know what, if it's fruitful, I can have an entire episode on how do you hire the right consultant? What questions should you ask? Right? If that's helpful, I'll let you guys let me know. But take your time, do it right. Slow down to speed up. Okay? So who's that person? Who needed to hear this one? Who's in the ambulance, is habitual for calling the ambulance, right? Who's always driving it? Who is that person? Share this with them. I'm telling you, it is going to help them out tremendously. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm putting words to how people are feeling right now in marketing with respect to automation. Okay. So who is that? Share this with them, please. And again, make sure you're subscribing. You have rated the podcast. That's your way of telling me thank you. And that the work that I'm doing is paying off. All episodes and show notes will be available at automationbridge.com/podcast. And as always, until next episode, automate responsibly, my friends.